So without their help, BLM would really be hurting for labor to try to maintain the little Bookcliffs area like we like to have it maintained.
And I think this is just a little treasure we have right here in the Bookcliffs.
It's an awesome experience.
I enjoy horses and the outdoors.
I got interested when I adopted my first Mustang in 1989.
We work with the BLM hand in hand.
Come join FOM. Come and have some fun.
In 1982, 5 of us who were good friends and were very interested in the wild horses approached the BLM, and we said, you know, we really don't want to go to Rock Springs, Wyoming to adopt horses. Can we have a local adoption?
Our first roundup was due to a drought, and we just ran out of feed up there. In that first roundup or gather, we had several people that were interested and came out and watched and expressed an interest in helping us with future gathers or helping with on the range. And when we would have a gather, they would help us with the gather and help us with adoptions, and kind of the same thing they're doing now, only about 4 or 5 people versus, you know, the big group that we have now. Without their help, BLM would really be hurting for labor to try to maintain the little Bookcliffs area like we like to have it maintained.
We have a developed spring here seeping out of this hillside. We have a collection pipe buried here and then a pipeline system that goes down to the trough behind me, and what this does is provides a clean source of water, cleaner source of water for the horses, rather than it just popping out of the ground. Usually if it just pops out of the ground, kind of like you see here, they tromp around in it, muck it up, and it can actually affect the flow of the spring. So wherever we can find springs on the horse range, we try to put a trough system on it, and we probably believe we have about 12 developed springs. So this is our collection area of our spring development. This is where we collect the water. It goes from here into a pipeline down to the trough. What we're looking for here is, you can see the water seeping out of the hillside here. What we're trying to do is collect that water in what you'd call a French drain. The water collects in there, goes down the pipeline to the trough. So this is what we're looking for on the horse range, is where these water sources pop up out of either the side of the hillside, or sometimes it's in the bottom of the drainage, and take advantage of that water and put it into a trough system. There's a couple things that happen when you have a volunteer group as supportive as this, helping you in projects like this. One is that you get the work done, and a lot more work done. Like I was saying before, it'd be difficult for BLM to cover all of these springs and these fences by themselves, take more manpower. We'd probably have to hire more people. We're all working for a common goal. We're trying to improve conditions, trying to improve the water situation for the wild horses. Besides the work on the springs and the fences, which keeps the horses on the range, which is where they're supposed to be, you know, they've reseeded areas that we've done treatments in, or short of grass. They're out there with their seeder, seeding these areas. And you know, we've had several treatments up in here to remove brush and trees to improve the forage, and they've been supportive of that. We all have a common goal of what we want to achieve out here: healthy horses, healthy rangeland.
We are not only concerned for just the Mustangs, we also need good range management for all the wildlife. All the lizards, the bighorn sheep, the bear, the mountain lions, you know, elk, deer. You know, it's for the good of all the animals out here.
PZP stands for porcine zona pellucida. It is an immunocontraceptive drug that is made from pig embryos, and once it's injected into a mare, will make her egg sac reject sperm so that she does not get pregnant. It usually works for about a year. In the summer of 2002, our local BLM, they were approached about being in the fertility control project. They needed 3 areas, and the little Bookcliffs was selected, and we all took part in that fertility control project. We had to have an emergency gather in 2002 because range conditions were horrible. So we gathered in July, and J. Kirkpatrick came down from Montana, and we had chosen our 25 mares. When we got those mares in the trap, he gave them their primer shot, because the first year they need a primer and a booster. Then in November, one of the gals who was working for the USGS on this project, she and I flew up to Billings, Montana, and Jay trained us how to dart. And Jim Dollarshell of the BLM, he went up with us, and the 3 of us got our dart gun training. And then we came back, and Jay made us practice for a week, and then we got right to work. We started darting, giving those mares their booster shots. There were some people in the club who were concerned about that very fact, that it was going to hurt the horses and that they didn't want them sterile and it wasn't natural. And once they came to see, it's just like a bee sting. That's what they feel, and that's all. It doesn't harm an unborn fetus. For instance, if a mare is pregnant when she's darted, it does not harm that fetus. The mare will have a baby that's healthy. The ramifications of not using PZP here on our range are pretty severe. We would be having 40 babies a year, and that would mean we'd have to have gathers probably every 2 years. We had been going 3 years, but at 40 babies a year, we were starting to have them every 2 years. And that's a huge impact on the herd. It's expensive for the taxpayers, and it's just so much better if we can narrow it down to 10 to 15 babies a year and leave these horses alone otherwise. I think one of the biggest advantages of PZP, in my eyes, is that it helps the mares have a better quality of life. I've been keeping pretty good records on the horses up here for about 39 years, and I've noticed that if a mare has 9 babies in a row, then that's a death sentence for her. She will die. And so the quality of life, if you start having foals at 3, which is what most of our mares used to do, and sometimes even as 2-year-olds. How long do they live if they have 9 in a row? They have short lives, and they're pretty miserable lives. So I'm really pleased that we use PZP to give these mares a break and let them have a better life.
Well, we are always looking for new members, and anybody any horse enthusiast. You don't necessarily have to own a horse or a Mustang. You just have to have a love for the animals.
I grew up in Rangeley, Colorado, and consequently I was around wild horses as a kid. The horse thing comes to me easily as far as the gene pool goes. So when I came here and started looking at the horse lists that we keep, which shows the individual horse, its sire, its dam, when it was born, and the area that it lives in. As I'm looking through the list, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this horse is related to this other horse that I'm showing a lot of interest in. And I found out that just by looking at it that there was 2 particular studs up here that had the same sire with 2 different dams, and they looked nothing alike. Their individual uniqueness, again, came from their mother.
I feel that the American people are the guardians of this land, and that we need to take care of it, not only for the horses but for us and for our children. I've been with the Mustangs for 5 years. I helped with one of the roundups or gathers, helped cook. I've been out here several times with the crew to fix fence.
I've been a volunteer for the BLM for a long time with Friends of the Mustang. I like working up here more than anything else. I like seeing the horses, but I like working on tanks and fences. We've got quite a diverse group, which makes it really nice because we all give our part, you know, and it all comes together that the horses get taken care of really well.
There's a lot goes on up here, and fencing and water tanks is probably the biggest.
I've been coming probably since the mid to early 90s. For me, well, of course I get to come and see my friends and everything, but it's nice to know that somebody's out here helping and taking care of the horses.
It's the love and of being with the horses. And I think at some point, if you've been here long enough, you will adopt one.
Yeah.
And I find out that people who have a lot of horses and say have one Mustang, that's usually the horse that they take.
They can go just about anywhere.
They're a wonderful horse, and they aren't going to do anything to hurt them that's going to hurt you.